Welcome to The Explainer. So, when you think of France, what comes to mind? You're probably picturing romance, amazing art, maybe a fresh baguette, right? But what if I told you the real France is a place full of bizarre laws, incredible inventions, and just fascinating contradictions that go way beyond those clichés? All right, let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a little pop quiz. What do you think is the most visited tourist spot in the entire Paris region? Now, if you're thinking of the iconic Eiffel Tower or, the historic Louvre, well, you'd be wrong. Yeah, the answer is probably not what you're thinking. Believe it or not, it's Disneyland. And that one fact is the perfect place for us to start, because it proves that the France we think we know is often hiding a much, much more surprising reality just beneath the surface. So let's keep busting some myths. When you picture a classic French breakfast, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's this amazing flaky pastry, but its story isn't quite what you'd expect. That's right, the croissant, the absolute symbol of a Parisian morning, isn't originally French at all. It was actually inspired by a pastry from Vienna in Austria. And this is just a perfect example of how French culture has this incredible way of absorbing and perfecting ideas from all over the place, creating something that's way more complex than just one thing. And this idea of hidden complexity, it absolutely extends to France's geography. We often call it the Hexagon because of that familiar shape you see on a map of Europe. But its true size and its global reach, well, they're massively underestimated. For starters, inside the European Union, France is number one in size. Its land area is bigger than Spain or Germany, making it a real giant on the continent. And its reach is literally global. Thanks to all of its overseas territories, which stretch from the Caribbean all the way to the Pacific, France spans an incredible 12 different time zones. That is more than any other nation on the entire planet. So you take this European heartland, you add in the global territories and that undeniable cultural charm. And what do you get? You get the most visited country in the world. Back in 2019, France welcomed a staggering 90 million tourists. Now, a country with this much history is bound to have some peculiar laws. And when it comes to strange, outdated, or just plain weird legislation, trust me, France does not disappoint. Okay, this timeline is kind of mind-blowing because it shows you just how slowly things can change. Get this, a law from 1800 that made it illegal for women to wear trousers wasn't officially taken off the books until 2013. 2013! And the last state execution by guillotine, that happened in 1977, which is well within living memory for so many people. And some of these bizarre laws are actually still active. It is technically illegal to name a pig Napoleon. Seriously, this law was passed over 200 years ago to protect the emperor's dignity, and they just never got around to repealing it. So if you're a pig farmer in France, you've been warned. France also has this really unique and pretty complex modern law when it comes to prostitution. So, under a 2016 law, the act of selling sex isn't illegal, but the act of buying it is, which means the client is the one who faces the fines and legal trouble, not the sex worker. Okay, from laws, let's turn to French food. It's world famous for being so sophisticated and artistic, but it also has some tastes that might seem a little unusual to the rest of us. So here's where you find this amazing contrast. On the one hand, French gastronomy is so revered, it's actually protected by UNESCO as part of our world heritage. And on the other hand, a staple of that very same cuisine is escargot, snails, a widely consumed national snack. And of course, you cannot talk about French cuisine without talking about cheese. I mean, we are not talking about a few choices in the dairy aisle here. France produces over 1,600 distinct types of cheese. From soft and creamy to sharp and pungent, it is a cheese lover's paradise, for sure. Even the humble baguette has a surprisingly gritty origin story. It wasn't invented just because it has that perfect crust. Nope, it was actually a public safety measure. See, workers used to carry knives to cut their bread, and arguments would often turn violent. So the baguette was designed to be torn by hand, which basically disarmed the entire lunch break. But France's contributions go so far beyond the dinner table. This country has given the world some truly remarkable and world-changing inventions and traditions. French innovation has absolutely shaped the modern world. They gave us the metric system, the foundation of modern science, the cinematography, which basically birthed the entire art of film, and Braille, opening up the world of reading for the blind. And let's not forget this colossal gift. Lady Liberty, a universal symbol of freedom and democracy, was designed, built, and paid for by the people of France as a gesture of friendship to the United States. And here's one more surprise for you, the tradition of a bride wearing a white gown. Now, Queen Victoria often gets the credit, but it was a trend that was already gaining a lot of popularity in 19th century France, and their influence helped make it the global standard it is today. So we end with this puzzle, right? The name France comes from a Germanic tribe and Paris from a Celtic one. It just reminds us that France is a nation that's built on layers and layers of history, from Austrian pastries and world-changing inventions to knife-free bread and, yeah, laws about pigs. It is a cultural mosaic of the most fascinating contradictions. The one thing that's for sure is that France is always more than it seems.